A man lies face down on the ice, more than 3,000 meters above sea level. He has been there, frozen, for over 5,300 years. And buried in his left shoulder, hidden for almost a decade, is a stone arrowhead that makes him the victim of the oldest unsolved murder in history. When they found him, they assumed he was a climber who had died in a recent accident. They were completely wrong, because this man did not fall from exhaustion or from the cold. This man was killed. And what forensic science has reconstructed about his final hours, a huge meal, a wound on his hand, a blow to the head, and a shot in the back, paints something far more disturbing than a simple fatal misstep. Let's go back to the beginning. On the 19th of September 1991, two German hikers were walking through the Ötzi the Alps, on the border between Austria and Italy. At an altitude of 3,210 meters, on the east ridge of the Spitze, near Mount Similon, they saw something jutting out of the ice. It was a body. It was so well preserved that they assumed it was a modern victim of the mountain. But it wasn't. This was the natural mummy of a man who lived between 3350 and 3105 BC, and his remains surfaced in the Ötzi the Alps, which gave him the nickname we know him by today, Ötzi. He is the oldest known natural human mummy in Europe, and he offers an unprecedented window into the Europeans of the Chalcolithic, the Copper Age. A man preserved by an extraordinary accident. Unlike the mummies of ancient Egypt, which were eviscerated and treated with resin, Ötzi was freeze-dried naturally high in the Alps. We know a great deal about him. Analysis of his bones indicates he was around 45 years old when he died, an advanced age for his time. When he died, he wore a coat, leggings, and leather shoes. He had line tattoos that may have had a spiritual or medical purpose, and he carried a copper axe, a knife, and arrows tipped with flint. A hunter of the Copper Age, equipped and ready. And this is where the mystery begins. For nearly 10 years, no one knew how he had died. The cause of death remained uncertain until a decade after the discovery. At first, it was believed that Ötzi had died from exposure to the cold during a winter storm. There was even another theory, a darker one. Some speculated that he might have been the victim of a ritual sacrifice, perhaps because he was a tribal chief, an idea inspired by the bodies found in peat bogs like Tolland Man or Lindo Man. But everything changed in the year 2001. That year, X-rays and a CT scan revealed that Ötzi had an arrowhead lodged in his left shoulder when he died, along with a small matching tear in his coat. 10 years. That stone point had been hidden inside the body for 10 years, invisible. Almost a decade after the discovery, scientists announced that they finally knew what had killed him. He had been shot in the back with an arrow. When the mummy was found, it was thought he had died alone on a hunt. But the CT scan revealed a flint point 2 centimeters long that had shattered his shoulder blade. The angle of the wound tells a story. It suggests the attacker fired from below. The arrowhead, less than 2.5 centimeters, pierced his back, tore the nerves of his left arm, and severed blood vessels, coming to rest between his shoulder blade and his rib cage. And there is a chilling detail. Someone pulled the shaft of the arrow out of Ötzi's body. The blood around the spot where it rested indicates it was removed while the man was still bleeding. But the stone point stayed inside, in his back. Who tore out that arrow? Ötzi himself, dying? Or his killer, erasing evidence more than 5,000 years ago? This is where the science divides, and we should be honest about it. One theory, put forward for years, holds that death was quick. The scans show a 13mm tear in an artery, surrounded by a large clot. A laceration like that would cause massive hemorrhage and cardiac arrest, and it was believed the Iceman died within minutes of the impact. But recent studies question that speed. A 2024 analysis narrows his survival time to a window of between 2 and 12 hours, suggesting that the place where he was found and the actual crime scene probably don't match. According to this research, the arrow wound caused a localized hemorrhage. An acute fatal hemorrhagic shock is unlikely, and the wound was not immediately lethal. So even today there is no agreement on whether Ötzi died in minutes or whether he managed to flee, wounded, for hours before collapsing on the ice. And the arrow was not the only violence. Later, research found bruises and cuts on his hands, wrists, and chest, along with brain trauma consistent with a blow to the head. Think about that for a moment. A defensive cut on the hand, a blow to the skull, and an arrow in the back. This is not an accident. These are the final days of a man who was fighting. The blood confirms it. DNA analysis in 2003 claimed to have revealed traces of blood from at least 4 other people on his gear. 1 on the knife, 2 on a single arrowhead in his quiver, and a 4th on his coat. One interpretation is that Ötzi killed 2 people with the same arrow, retrieving it both times, and that the blood on the coat came from a wounded companion he may have carried on his back. 4 people, a man alone, in the mountains, with the blood of others on him. Whatever happened in those final days, he was not alone, and he was not at peace. And now, the detail that makes him almost human. His last meal. Ötzi's stomach was completely full when he was shot and died. This is not the stomach of a man fleeing in terror without rest. It's the stomach of someone who, shortly before dying, sat down to eat well. A 2019 study revealed he ate a large meal between 30 and 60 minutes before his death. Red deer meat, ibex meat, einkorn wheat, and various plants. The fat content was remarkably high, with adipose tissue and bone marrow, suggesting he deliberately consumed fatty cuts. It was no coincidence. The high, cold environment is particularly demanding on human physiology, explained researcher Albert Zink. The Iceman seemed fully aware that fat is an excellent source of energy. A man preparing his body for the cold of the heights. A man who planned to stay alive. And here is the final chill. This pollen in the food, this full stomach, pins his death to a precise moment. The pollen was so well preserved that it shows it was fresh, only about 2 hours old at the moment of Ötzi's death, placing it in spring or early summer. So let's reconstruct what the science allows us to say. A man around 45 years old, in the spring of more than 5,000 years ago. Days earlier, a fight. Cuts on his hands, another's blood on his clothes and his weapons. Then a stop on the mountain, a rich and hearty meal. And then, half an hour later, someone takes aim from below, from behind, and fires. What we don't know is the essential part. Scientists believe the Iceman may have been in a war, a great struggle, or perhaps a personal dispute. Was it an ambush? A revenge killing? Was he fleeing someone who chased him up to the glacier? The case has been open for more than 5,000 years. We have the body, the weapon, the last meal, and even the blood of the victims. We have everything. Everything except the killer's name. And that name, almost certainly, we will never know.